You're looking at a biological pressure cooker. If you were a human in this desert, your internal organs would be soup in minutes. Yet, some creatures don't just survive this furnace, they treat it like a luxury spa. Welcome to the ultimate thermal battlefield. I'm your guide, and today we're analyzing the masterclass of survival, the desert extremophiles. We aren't just talking about hanging in there. We're talking about animals that possess built-in high-tech cooling systems that put our best engineering to shame. How did desert legends like the Arabian oryx and the fennec fox keep their brains from boiling while using zero water? It's not magic, it's a tactical heat management war. Let's break down the biology of defiance. Imagine you're standing in the middle of the Sahara. It's not just hot, it's a giant natural frying pan, and you're the piece of butter hitting the surface. See? That's what happens when you aren't built for this. In the desert, survival isn't about how much muscle you have or how fast you can run. It's entirely about heat dissipation management. Most creatures would turn into a crispy snack in minutes. But the true masters of the desert, they don't fight the heat. They engineer their way through it. They treat their own bodies like high-end computer processors that refuse to overheat no matter how hard the sun pushes back. But how exactly do these animals keep their cool when the math says they should be roasting alive? Before we break down the biological blueprint of these desert survivors, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss the next stage of our heat management war. Now, if your brain gets too hot, it basically turns into scrambled eggs. The oryx manages to keep its head cool, even when its body is roasting, thanks to a clever bit of biological plumbing called the rete mirabile. Think of it as a radiator for your skull. Arterial blood, pumping hot from the core, travels upward toward the brain, while cooler venous blood, cooled by the nasal passages, flows back down. When these two bloodstreams run in opposite directions right next to each other, the heat jumps from the hot pipes to the cold ones before it ever reaches the brain. It's a perfect counter-current exchange system. Stickman, on the other hand, just looks like a leaky kitchen sink in a midlife crisis. If you're enjoying how these animals hack the laws of physics, make sure you're subscribed, because the next survival trick involves something even more extreme than just blood cooling. Now, the real heavy lifting happens in what we call the cavernous sinus. Think of this as the grand central station for thermal management. As the oryx breathes, it pulls in dry, hot desert air. This air hits the moist membranes of the nose, cooling the venous blood underneath. But here is the genius part. That chilled blood then flows into a pool, the cavernous sinus, surrounding the hot arterial blood heading toward the brain. It is a heat exchange masterclass. Look, evolution spent millions of years perfecting this plumbing. Stickman just spent 3 minutes turning his living room into a crime scene. If you want to see how other desert creatures hack their own internal hardware, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're just getting started on the blueprints of survival. Now, let's talk about the oryx's ultimate tactical retreat, heterothermy. Most mammals act like stubborn, spoiled thermostats, keeping a steady temperature no matter what. But the oryx? It's a genius. Instead of wasting precious water to sweat or pant, it just lets its core body temperature drift up to a blistering 41 degrees Celsius. By matching the environment, instead of fighting it, the animal saves liters of water that would otherwise be lost to evaporation. He's not sick. He's just embracing the heat to avoid dehydration. It's a risky game of thermal chicken. But for the oryx, it's the only way to win the desert war. If you're sweating just watching Stickman try to survive this, wait until you see how they handle the nighttime drop. Make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss how these creatures survive the freezing desert dark. Now, even if you survive the heat, you have to survive the thirst. This is where the oryx pulls off a biological heist that would make a chemist weep. Renal mastery. You see, while you lose water every time you go to the bathroom, the oryx runs a tight ship. Inside its kidneys, there is a specialized structure called the loop of Henle. It acts like an extreme water recycling plant, pulling every single drop of moisture back into the bloodstream. It can concentrate its urine up to 2,500 milliosmoles per liter. That's basically a thick, salty syrup. Honestly, it is so efficient that the urine is barely liquid.
It's glowing.
Yeah, don't try that at home. That concentration isn't for drinking. It is a tactical survival move to keep the oryx moving, while you just end up as a frozen lawn ornament. If you think the kidneys are impressive, wait until you see how they handle salt intake. But recycling isn't enough. You still need to refuel. The oryx is a master of the water battery diet. It hunts for deeply buried bulbs and tubers, plants that store water like living canteens in the parched earth. That beetle didn't just steal a snack, it just won the war for survival, while our friend here is left with nothing but a mouthful of dry, scorching sand. If you think the oryx is impressive for living off roots, wait until you see how the fennec fox turns its own ears into a biological radiator. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss that survival hack. Now, surviving the heat is only half the battle. When the sun beats down, the oryx doesn't just sit there like a defenseless snack. It carries a 2-foot-long, spear-like deterrent on its head. These aren't just horns, they are biological bayonets reaching up to 120 centimeters in length. When a lion gets too close, the oryx doesn't run. It treats the encounter like a high-noon standoff in a dusty western. The oryx angles those razor-sharp points with surgical precision. It's a game of geometry. A single swipe can puncture a predator's defenses, turning a hunt into a very bad day for the cat. It's not just a weapon, it's a don't even think about it signal that keeps the desert food chain from getting out of hand. If you think the oryx's survival gear is impressive, wait until we look at the fennec fox's ears, which are basically biological radiator panels. Now, the oryx isn't just a master of staying cool, it's an absolute speed demon when the situation demands it. Out here, the sand acts like a shifting trap, turning every step into a workout. But the oryx has evolved hooves that act like built-in snowshoes, spreading its weight to sprint at a blistering 60 kilometers per hour across soft, unstable dunes. It's all about biomechanical efficiency, balancing rapid movement with a stable base. If you don't have the anatomy for it, you're not outrunning the heat. You're just becoming a human lawn dart. If you're enjoying how these animals hack their way through hellish heat, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Now, if the oryx is the desert's high-speed sprinter, the fennec fox is its master architect of heat dissipation. Look at those ears. They're not just for hearing a beetle crawl a mile away. They are massive vascular heat sinks. See, the fennec pumps its blood through the tiny capillaries in those giant ears, dumping excess heat into the air before the blood circles back to the core. It's brilliant. Efficiency at its peak. Geometry matters. You've turned yourself into a human kite. If watching Stickman get carried off into the stratosphere by his own bad ideas gave you a laugh, hit that subscribe button. We've got more desert survival science coming. Now, those giant ears aren't the only piece of survival gear the fennec fox packs. Down on the ground, they've got a secret weapon against the furnace that is the desert floor. Thick, dense fur padding on their paws. Think of them as built-in high-performance hiking boots that protect their skin from blistering sand temperatures that can hit 150 degrees Fahrenheit. Without that natural insulation, you're basically walking on a skillet. It's not just about speed, it's about having the right equipment for the terrain. If you don't have the fur, you're just lunch for the pavement. If you think Stickman should invest in some heavy-duty boots, smash that subscribe button. But if the heat doesn't get you, the predators will. To survive, fence use evasive geometry. They don't run in a straight line. They use unpredictable, sharp-angled turns and explosive vertical leaps to shatter a predator's lock on their position. It's all about breaking the line of sight and keeping the enemy guessing. Surviving the heat is one thing, but avoiding the predator's gaze is a whole different game. If you're curious about how other desert creatures hack their environment to stay off the menu, hit that subscribe button. We're breaking down more survival blueprints next. So we have reached the end of our thermal ledger. We've seen the two masters of this blistering arena. On one side, the Arabian Oryx, the brute force heavy tank that uses a complex carotid reed system to air condition its brain. On the other, the Fennec Fox, the master of tactical efficiency, dumping heat through massive ears and hiding in the cool subterranean dark. It really comes down to a simple choice: be a giant heat-soaking juggernaut or a tiny elusive shadow dweller. Unfortunately for our friend here, nature didn't give him the upgrades. Survival is a game of biology, not just bad ideas and sunny disposition. If you enjoyed seeing Stickman attempt to defy physics, hit that subscribe button. So, while our biological engineering makes us absolute disasters in the dunes, these extremophiles prove that life doesn't just survive the heat, it weaponizes it. They trade brute force for elegant, physics-defying efficiency. Don't try to outsmart the desert. Just learn to let the heat pass through you. Stay cool, and I'll catch you in the next one.